Checkpoint. The Watchers Council decides to make the previous episode feel even more pointless by revealing that they do, in fact, have information on Glory, but we don't get to find out what it is. It's probably my longest synopsis ever.
We open with Buffy cleaning up the Summers house because Joyce is unable to because of her illness.
And the gang is hanging out with Buffy, who is still moping about Riley. Giles tells them that the Watchers Council is coming to Sunnydale to give them information they say is important, presumably about Glory.
Even though he traveled all the way to England, and they told him they did not have any information.
And even idiot Xander points out that they could have just called. And I noted that his arm was in a cast, which was honestly surprising to see.
Buffy is upset because the Watchers Council did all that crap to her back in that other episode.
And that other episode.
And she says they'll screw everything up. And again, they're talking about the key and stuff, and Dawn is right on the other side of a wall. And Buffy is comically distraught that Dawn might overhear what's going on when they could easily solve that problem by not having a meeting 20 feet away from Dawn in an open space.
Meanwhile, Glory's minion, now with a second minion companion, brings her a mailman for her to do whatever it is that she does to them.
Glory is ill until she's able to CGI the mail carrier, which rejuvenates her at the expense of Section 1708 of United States Code, Title 18, Part 1, Chapter 83. That's legit. You think I'm making a joke, but that's legit. You can look it up.
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
Nobody, demon or otherwise, has the authority to violate the United States Code. And the initiative was around or is around to, stop demons and stuff, but I want to see some lawyers pop in here and say, yo, Glory, not okay.
And I guess I was thinking about the fact that Glory does have a weakness, but Buffy doesn't know about that. So I wonder if that's how they're going to beat her. Minion number 2 tells her that the alignment is speeding up, whatever that means, so she has to get the key soon.
And Glory kind of brushes it off, but also acts like she has a foolproof plan to get the key.
And she says that Buffy must know something about where it is.
Her plans so far have been pretty nonsensical or outright don't work, but the show is trying to convince us that she's super smart and can run in circles around everybody else, but I'm not buying it.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly help to make her a menacing villain. Giles is at the magic shop having a one-sided conversation with another unspeaking customer when the council arrives, again led by Quentin Travers,
who points out that Giles is selling a bunch of dangerous magical artifacts to the public and shuts down the shop.
And when they kick out all the customers, they act like straight-up mobsters, but of course none of those customers voice any confusion or concern. And I note that the magic shop actually is fixed from last episode, but I suppose they could have used magic, which would actually make sense in this case. And when Anya realizes that it's the Watchers Council, she has some pretty good lines when she tries to cover up her identity.
Miss, excuse me, you work here?
Ever since I moved here from southeastern Indiana, where I was raised by both a mother and a father.
Quentin says they have information about Glory, but they need to be convinced that Buffy and Giles can handle it.
So they're going to give them a review.
Meanwhile, Buffy's in class, which was surprising, and the professor's going on about Rasputin, and Buffy refutes his facts, and he proceeds to, like all the other college professors in this show, shame her in front of everybody. So one or more of the writers or producers did not enjoy their college experience.
And I like how she stands up, even though she doesn't have to, which just makes her look even more ridiculous when everybody's laughing at her.
I did that all the time.
And did people laugh at you?
No comment.
And I thought the discussion about Rasputin being very difficult to kill was going to give Buffy some kind of idea on how to fight Glory, but it doesn't end up mattering.
Well, yeah, he was around before CGI was a thing. And the United States Code.
Later, Buffy is taking out her anger on a vampire when Spike pops out and stakes him, causing her to transfer her anger to him.
Him showing up inexplicably is his MO at this point, so they don't really talk too much about that. They just continue their never-ending argument about how she can't stand him, and he keeps saving her, and whatever.
And I'll point out here that I found an interview with James Marsters, where he basically confirmed our suspicions that the writers had no idea what to do with Spike. Apparently they would come to him and say, all right, we finished the script, but we didn't figure out how to put you in it, so we're just going to kind of shove you in somewhere at the last second. And that's exactly what it feels like.
At the hospital, one of Glory's demons walks up to Ben, not even in disguise, not even trying to hide that he's a demon walking through a hospital, and he pulls him off into a separate room. He's not even in civilian clothes. He's still wearing his monk robe, and he's still got a demon face.
And he leaves the door wide open, and they're basically right next to the entrance. And of course, someone has left x-rays up and the lights on in case we weren't sure that this was a hospital. The minion tells Ben that Glory wants to find out info about the Slayer's home and friends, and he lets Ben know that the Slayer is Buffy, which I was surprised that Ben knows what the Slayer is, but doesn't know that it's Buffy.
Yeah, considering he stalks her every time she comes into the hospital.
Ben says he doesn't want to help Glory, and he tells the minion to deliver a message, and then the scene abruptly cuts away.
At the magic shop, Buffy shows up and is told by the Watchers Council that Glory is stronger than her, and they'll give her information that can help if she passes their review.
And they say they also want to interview her friends because they go on patrol with her. And they tell Buffy that if she doesn't agree to do things their way, they will shut down the magic shop and have Giles deported. But if Buffy doesn't fight Glory, then what are they going to do? That was my first thought, but then I realized Buffy is just one person and has already demonstrated that she can't stand up to Glory, so it would seem that they need some other way of beating her anyway. Like a gun, maybe.
Elsewhere, Glory's upset that Ben refuses to help, and she says that she'll just go find Buffy herself. What a concept. To take action on the one thing you're in the show to do, instead of sending big snake monsters or doing nothing.
And she already knows that she can handle Buffy, so I don't understand why she does just sit around all the time, especially when she talks about how frustrated she is that her plans aren't working out.
Because it gives the writers excuses to make dumb jokes, something we're not familiar with.
And apparently part of Ben's message was that he beat up the minion.
Giles and Buffy are bitching about the Council's demands, and Buffy has a moment of self-realization that she's not an effective Slayer and shouldn't be told anything to help her. But then she pivots back to whiny Buffy, where she only actually cares about Giles going away, and not her duties as the Slayer.
The Watchers question Buffy's friends, which gives us a humorous montage, which I thought was not bad. However, it did accentuate Buffy's lack of organization, Willow and Tara's irresponsibility with magic, and Xander's utter pointlessness.
And of course they interview Spike, because this was probably one of the moments when the writers said, we don't know how to get Spike in this episode.
And I wondered why the others would tell the Watchers about Spike, because I don't think they knew about him up to this point, at least not that he was working with them. They give Buffy a test of her skills, where she is supposed to protect Xander's scarecrow from a Watcher armed with an axe while blindfolded. And Quentin gives her combat orders in really bad Japanese, but surprisingly, Giles' translations are actually correct.
Buffy is frustrated and eventually decides to just say F it and beats the shit out of the axe-wielding guy, but she accidentally kills the victim, too.
Quentin says they'll come back that night to review her strategies, which will give them time to prepare, which was stupid because they don't know what they're preparing for. When Buffy gets home, she finds Glory waiting, and I liked Glory's line when Buffy grabs the fireplace poker.
If I wanted to fight, you could tell by the being dead already.
Glory says she doesn't want to fight, she just wants the key. And then Dawn walks in.
And Buffy tries covertly to tell her to leave, so of course she's very obvious about it.
Glory says she'll kill everyone just to get the key. And then she leaves, saying, this was just a warning, which was really dumb. She could have just taken action right there. What is the point of her going, this is a warning? Just do what you're there to do. She's going to come back later and do what she could have done this time. Why bother giving Buffy a warning?
Exactly, and she could even have captured Buffy and interrogated her, maybe killed one person at a time in front of her.
Well, she must have realized that there were so many episodes left in this season.
Unfortunately. After Glory leaves, Joyce shows up from somewhere, and Buffy tells her to pack a bag. Leave it to Buffy to prioritize vacations over everything else that's going on.
Buffy takes Joyce and Dawn to Spike's crypt, saying he is the only one strong enough to protect them.
I forgot about that. Again, this is a guy that has tried to murder them and even end the entire world multiple times. What a responsible Slayer.
But it turns out that Spike and Joyce are able to bond over passions, which I thought was pretty humorous.
Yeah, but it's still stupid.
I didn't say it wasn't stupid.
And my mom used to watch Passions, so I actually knew what they were talking about, which also made it funny.
Oh man, that's pretty sad.
At the magic shop, the council is waiting for Buffy, who was so worried about failing the test that she didn't even make it on time. Instead, she gets jumped by some guys in an alley wearing chainmail and swinging swords around.
It said medieval knight ninjas.
That's being generous, I think.
She beats them up, and the one she unmasks says they're from the Knights of Byzantium, and they are not working for Glory, and their purpose is to destroy the key.
And they want to kill Buffy because she protects it. She acts like she's going to kill him with a sword, but she lets him go instead of interrogating him further or learning literally anything at all other than some more people want to kill her.
Well, yeah, this was just a warning.
Oh, man. She goes to the magic shop where Giles asks if she was attacked, and she says yes, but idiot Quentin Travers doesn't even respond to that and just starts trying to question her.
She tells Quentin there will not be any more review, and comes to the conclusion that everyone doesn't like that she has power over them.
She says Glory let her live because she knows about the key, which gives her power over Glory.
Which is not true. Glory's just being stupid because she easily bested Buffy before.
And she relates that to the Watchers coming to Buffy because she has power and they don't. She says without a Slayer they have no purpose, which at least acknowledged my comments about them. But it still doesn't really make sense.
She demands that the council tell her everything they know, and they must reinstate Giles and give him back pay. She also demands that she be allowed to continue being irresponsible and foolhardy.
And that brought up the question for me of how do the Watchers make money? Where are their funds coming from? How is that an actual paid job? I thought that's why part of why Giles was working as the librarian at the school. Because if he's already making money from the Watchers, why is he also working as a librarian in a high school?
Wasn't that his cover, though?
Yeah, but I mean, he can work with Buffy outside of the school setting where people are more likely to say, hey, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I think he said he wanted to be close to her, though.
He can meet her after school. He can send her messages or whatever. I don't know. It's not like he's going to be able to train her during school.
Yeah, but he can do his research in the library. We saw he keeps all of his books there.
Yeah, but we now see that he keeps all the books at home, which also makes more sense. So he could do the research at home instead of at a high school.
All right.
Quit trying to defend the show that doesn't make sense.
I'm trying to defend the one character that I actually kind of like.
Okay. When Quentin agrees to Buffy's terms, the gang cheers, immediately negating the ability to take what Buffy was saying about them being valuable seriously at all.
Yeah, the show presents it as this big triumphant reversal on Buffy's part, but the spirit of her intentions didn't match that.
And she asks Quentin what kind of demon Glory is, and he reveals that Glory isn't a demon, she is a god. Checkpoint. Overall,
I did not buy Glory's act of suddenly acting like she had a foolproof plan at the beginning of the episode. And I was correct, seeing as how her first act of the plan was to not actually do anything, then bitch about it later when it yielded 0 results. Her finding out that Buffy was the Slayer, and that Buffy knew who the key was, and then going to Buffy, having the upper hand, but then saying, next time, I'll actually take some action to get the key. Even though there's literally nothing stopping me from achieving my singular goal right now, was probably one of the dumbest decisions the show has made in a while. It was amusing how the Watchers Council was made out to be the bad guys when they shut down the magic shop for performing dangerous acts and admonished Buffy for taking weak dumbasses on patrol. If anything, the council should be commended for their patience for putting up with Buffy as the Slayer because she is terrible. When we saw Kendra as the Slayer, she took the job very seriously, understood its purpose, and Buffy responded with a bunch of sarcastic jokes. Her big speech at the end of this episode about how everyone is after her because she has power over them didn't really work. If she truly believed that, she would say, we're actually going to work together on this, instead of I'm taking my revenge on you and saying nah 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 and demanding that you follow my orders instead, then go away because the writers can't figure out how to include you past this episode. Do they show up in later episodes?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like they're going to be in the next episode, I assume, if they're going to actually give any useful information about Glory.
They better be. It better not just be an opening scene where Buffy relays what they told her, but they're not actually there.
That's what I imagine happening.
Plus, her saying Glory did not attack her because Buffy had something she needed didn't make any sense. Because in the episode No Place Like Home, Glory beat the crap out of Buffy, and in this episode, she said, I'll hurt you if you don't give me what I want, next time. There was nothing stopping her from doing it this time, and I strongly suspect that's what Glory will end up doing anyway. This show makes Buffy out to be somehow the most important Slayer in history, and I get it, it's the title of the show. But there have been many other Slayers, some of which we've seen in the show, dealing with the same or even worse crap than her, and they probably did a better job. the council just has to kind of deal with her until she finally dies, and they can get somebody who won't be caught up in a bunch of romance high school drama, bitching and moaning about dealing with annoying roommates and not having the perfect Thanksgiving feast.
Honestly, from their perspective of trying to protect the world or whatever, it would make more sense for them to kill Buffy.
Yes.
Or to send her into some dangerous mission that she's definitely not going to survive, so that they can actually get a Slayer that's going to protect the world.
Making them out to be the bad guys because they refuse to help her by default just because she's a Slayer, even though she's a whiny, self-centered child, doesn't work, no matter how much the show tells us we should side with Buffy. And her speech at the end, saying the important things here is that Giles has a job and gets paid and doesn't have to go back to England, reinforces that she's just a whiny, self-centered child. I would really like to watch a show focused on a Slayer who takes the job seriously and has to fight all of the evil in the world without a bunch of high school drama. This episode, despite finally focusing on Glory, did not do anything other than letting Glory know that Buffy is the Slayer, and she didn't actually act on it. And the council telling Buffy that Glory is really strong, which she already knew. So this episode was supposedly a checkpoint for something. But I'm just ready for the next one, and the one after that, and then, the end of the season, and then the end of the show. But I didn't like this one. I gave it a D.
Okay. I think I liked it a little bit more than you. I gave it a C. I thought this episode was a little better than what we've been getting lately. I still didn't think it was very good. So Giles is now a Watcher again, and Buffy has established dominance over them. They sure caved easily. Hopefully they can actually give us some information about Glory next episode. Introducing the concept of gods is interesting, and I do want to see them explore that, but I kind of doubt that they will. We were introduced to the Knights of Byzantium, which the guy referred to as an ancient order.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, is the fact that it's an ancient order the reason that they used swords and chainmail? Because that doesn't make any sense. Unless they traveled through time, using that kind of gear would be pretty impractical in a modern setting.
Maybe they just wanted to look cool. Did you ever think of that?
I mean, knowing this show, I wouldn't be surprised. All Buffy had to do was pull out the gun that she should carry with her at all times and just start blasting.
Didn't she have some kind of crossbow at one point?
Yeah, but of course she doesn't actually use that anymore. Not to mention it'd be really hard for them to go anywhere or do anything without drawing the maximum amount of attention to themselves. And again, Buffy letting them all go didn't make any sense either. But at least their introduction is a new element to the season, which has been stuck in a status quo for what feels like forever, but it remains to be seen whether that's going to be an interesting addition to the season.
Actually, she used to have that huge bag of weapons she carried around at the high school, but then once high school was over, she stopped doing that.
Yeah, I thought the humor in this episode with the gang was much better than in most episodes, but it was still mostly at their expense, and just made them look even stupider.
And I think part of that is because it was just little tiny sections instead of focusing the whole episode on it.
We really need things to pick up in this season, and I hope that Glory knowing where Buffy lives, and at least openly threatening her friends and family means we're reaching that point, but it needs to happen now. Something big needs to happen. We need to move to the next step of the story, instead of just kind of treading water for half the season.
How many episodes are left in this season?
We're at least over halfway, which on the one hand, it's like, okay, good, we're in the back half, but at the same time, it just accentuates how little has happened so far.
Well, on the bright side, we're preventing people from having to watch these episodes.
I guess so. Whoever owns the rights, I think it's Disney now, keeps threatening to do a reboot. So it's only a matter of time before we're covering that on the channel.
Ooh, and then Sarah Michelle Gellar will be the Watcher in that show.
I would be interested to see that.
And the Slayer in that show will try and take everything seriously. And she'll be like, you don't have to. What's going on with your love life?
Yeah, I mean, she can play retired Buffy or something who somehow there's a new Slayer. I don't know. Maybe she transfers her Slayer force away from herself, so now she's just a human.
And then Spike will show up as old Spike.
But still at random points for no reason.
And he'll make jokes about how he needs fang dentures.
Unfortunately, all of these ideas I feel like are very realistic for what they could do.
And he'll say, my name's Spike. And they'll be like, really?
You turned Australian?
Are you from the 90s? I can't, all my accents turn to Australian. I can't help it.
Yeah, mine do too, so.
Probably because it's the best one. That's a nod to you, all of our Australian viewers.
You're welcome. Or we're sorry.
Yeah, I think the latter is probably more appropriate.
Like and subscribe.
Or don't. Thanks for watching.